Welcome everyone to You Judge on this Tuesday night. And tonight we have a very special show because we are going to be talking about people that have had some success in the court system. We had to look very hard to find people that were successful, and in some instances they had to outsmart the court system to actually become successful. Tonight we'll also talk with Lee Cattell a little later on, and Lee will mention some ways that you can help out in the cause for freedom and for preserving our constitutional rights in New Mexico. And I really wanted to make sure that everybody that is listening, whether they be female, whether they be grandparents, aunts and uncles, the big extended families in New Mexico, that the issues that we talk about on this show affect everybody, because when fathers or mothers are kicked out of their lives of children, that does not only affect the mother-parent relationship, it also has profound effect on kicking out grandparents, and all the aunts and uncles never get to see these kids again, and the courts will do nothing to protect that relationship. Now, grandparents, you know, you hear a lot about grandparents having rights. That is not true. Grandparents have privileges. They do not have rights. So if you're a grandparent, you cannot petition the court if there is another parent that is in the life of the child. It still falls under the discretion of the judges. It is the judicial discretion. I got a couple of things that I think you might want to look up and possibly get a hold of that will be very helpful in understanding the plight of the parents in New Mexico. And I also wanted to mention that we're having this huge budget shortfall in our state, and that is thanks to a lot of different factors. They were mentioning tonight in the newspaper and on the radio about the rail runner and how much that's costing the state, how much this spaceport that has served absolutely no one near truth or consequences is actually helping New Mexico. But the biggest factor that is affecting every aspect of life in our state is corruption. Corruption extends at the city level, the county level, and especially at the state level, and we have seen an epidemic of corruption in the family court system in our state. I've got the theoretic basis for all lawsuits that parents should think about. They should, if you have been mistreated in the family court system, we intend to get a class action lawsuit against these government officials, these county officials, and let's all join together. Let's march, let's protest, let's write letters, but let's be part of a class action lawsuit against the state of New Mexico to protect our rights. You can call my number and we will get you in touch with people that are trying to go to the federal court system and let's get our children back. Let's get money out of this corrupt state. Anywhere where Governor Bill Richardson can appoint 500 people and give them salaries at $300,000, these political cronies, any state that can afford this kind of nonsense, this kind of guttural politics, can afford to give parents that have been unjustly treated money for all their trouble, time, and effort.
What's the phone number, Dale?
505-429-3773. 505-429-3773. Call that number and I will make sure that you become part of a class action lawsuit to take on this dirty state of New Mexico, and let's bring it down to size and let's restore our constitutional rights. Tonight we've got two special guests We have Howard Bancroft, who's going to talk about his success in the family court system. And later we'll visit with Lance Clafetta. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Lance. And we'll talk about his story before the family court system. But tonight we'd like to welcome with us on You Judge on this Tuesday night, Howard Cruz-Bancroft. Howard, nice to have you here tonight.
How are you?
Thank you so much for coming in. You know, your story, I hope you're writing a book on this. It's amazing. I can't believe what happened to you. You have basically 4 children, right?
Yes.
And why don't you tell people that are listening what happened to you? You were originally came here from California, right?
I was in an Air Force graduate program in California, and I was blindsided one day for Thanksgiving. The maternal grandparents came to visit, and they said, we'd like to take our daughter and the grandkids to visit their grandparents up in Oregon. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, whatever. So they took them there, and that night I didn't get a call. So I called up and I said, hey, how are they? Oh, well, they're sleeping now. Called up the next day. Oh, they're in a movie right now. Called up for 3 days, and finally I got no information. I couldn't talk to them. So I thought something is wrong. So I said, I'm going to call the police. They said, no, don't call the police. Call your father-in-law. So I called him up, and he says, well, your wife is having some issues, and she doesn't want to have a divorce. She needs some time to herself. And I'm like, well, that's fine, but what about my kids? Well, they're fine. We're taking care of them. And I couldn't get a conversation with them to find out what was going on. Eventually, after a couple of weeks, I decided to come down here to find out where they were actually living.
But the maternal grandparents, you had thought they were taken to Oregon.
Correct.
But they were actually taken to New Mexico.
Correct.
Well, this is really the place that you come if you want to circumvent laws, statutes, rules, the Constitution, where you want to see corruption. That is, well, the excuse is, hey, don't mess with our culture, buddy.
Yeah. Well, apparently her dad and her attorney grew up with a prominent New Mexico politician.
So we're talking about, what's the, they've got an expression for that where, one hand washes the other hand. I can't remember that expression, but you feel like, you were hit blindside by this.
Right.
You have a 28-year-old and a 23-year-old right now. Are these boys or girls?
The girl's 28, the boy's 23.
So these are the children you were talking about. They were taken to New Mexico, and you did it just because you wanted them to have time with the grandparents. And then these grandparents were actually conspiring with the mother. Now, what was the custody situation?